Okay, Dad, where did our family come from and how do you know?
Well, my grandparents and my great grandparents on my mother's side actually came from England, and they traced them all the way back to the 1600s. And my mother's father, I remember stories about my great grandfather, and that's as far back as that goes. And he was in West Virginia, or Western Virginia, so that's as far back as I know about him. Now, on my dad's side, his mother, that goes back to the Civil War. There was one individual that was in the Civil War in their family, and they had a farm. Now, my great grandparents on my dad's mother's side had a farm, and that's the farm that my grandfather and grandmother lived on. They expanded the farm, but that was their farm. And then on my dad's father's side, so his grandfather, I don't know where he came from, but he was a really big man. And he had like 18 children, but he had 2 wives. And so I don't remember where the cutoff was, but maybe more than half of the kids were born by his first wife who died, and then the other half after that. And so one funny thing is Big Ed, downtown, Big Ed's restaurant, he is a descendant of the second wife of my great grandfather. So that's as far back as I know. One from England, but the other on my dad's side, I don't know where they came from.
Okay, sounds good. How many generations can you trace back from your parents, and can you recall their names? You're recalling most of them?
Well, I don't know that I can really recall their first names. I do remember on my mother's side, my grandfather on her side loved to talk about his granddaddy, who was Granddaddy Lawson, and he was a real character of a guy. I think he was too young to have been in the Civil War. No, I'm sorry. He probably was too young to have been in the Civil War at that time. He lived a long time, and he did a lot of interesting stuff. So I heard his name a lot, and there were a lot of stories about him. On my grandmother's side, my mother's side, I don't know anything about my great grandfather or grandmother. And so on both of and of course I just told you about my dad's father's dad, so that was my great grandfather. And he was a big landowner. He actually was one of the largest landowners on my dad's side, my great grandfather, in Johnston County. He was on several bank boards during the Depression and ended up losing a lot of the land he had during that period. But he had enough land that of all those 18 kids, 16 of them he gave a farm to. He either was going to pay for them to go to college or he would give them a farm. And there was only one person out of 18 that went to college. And the other 17 took a farm.
Wow. Okay. So do we have any veterans in our family?
Yeah, and the ones I directly know about, well, your grandfather, my dad, was in Korea for 2 years. The war was not going on. It was after that. It was probably in 58, 59. And he was a captain in the Army there. And so he was a doctor. So he was a doctor at that MASH unit. And on my mother's side, my uncle, her brother, was in Vietnam.
Okay.
And he was there for a while. He never got injured, but he was there for a while.
Okay. And can you tell any stories about our family?
Well, the only 2 that I like, there was one on my dad's side. The fella had been in the Civil War, so that goes back, and it was a cousin down the line. And they said he weighed about 100 pounds and was about 5 feet tall. And he was in the cavalry. And he never got a scratch in the whole Civil War, so that was an interesting story. And then my grandfather liked to tell about his granddaddy Lawson, and this was on my mother's side, who was liked to travel apparently, and he was out west. And in the same, I don't know if he was in the same bar or just in the same town when Wild Bill Hickok got shot in the back in that bar, but he likes to tell that story anyway.
Wow. Okay. So, do we have any geological records? And if so, where are they?
There are some for your great grandmother on my mother's side. They've traced that. And I don't know that there are any for the other 3 grandparents. There probably are, but I don't know about them. So at least there's one.
Okay.
And those are the people from England.
And they're on like digital, or are they a book?
I don't know. That's a good
Okay.
question. That's a good question. It may be not. I doubt it's digital. I would think it's just somebody's traced it and recorded it, and it's being passed down through the family.
Okay. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
your time.